The throne room of the Zorathian Empire was a cavernous hall, its walls shimmering with bioluminescent veins that pulsed with the lifeblood of the hive. The air was thick with the scent of pheromones, a constant reminder of the queen's dominance over her subjects. Queen Xylara, a towering figure with iridescent chitin armor and eyes that glowed like molten gold, sat upon her throne of woven bone and sinew. Her mandibles clicked softly as she surveyed the holographic reports floating before her. The galaxy was hers to command, and yet, something gnawed at the edges of her consciousness, a shadow from the past. "Your Majesty," hissed General Kael, his segmented body bowing low. "The outpost on Zeta 9 has fallen. The humans. They have returned." Xylara's claws tightened around the armrests of her throne. "Impossible. The humans were eradicated centuries ago. Their worlds burned, their fleets shattered. What remains of them are scattered, primitive tribes." He hesitated, his antennae twitching nervously. "The reports are confirmed. A single warrior, clad in ancient armor, led the assault. He fought with the fury of 1,000 suns. Our forces were annihilated." The queen's eyes narrowed. "A single warrior. Describe him." Kael projected an image from his ocular implant. The hologram shimmered into existence, revealing a figure clad in battered but functional power armor, its surface scorched and scarred from countless battles. The helmet bore the insignia of the Terran Dominion, a roaring lion encircled by stars. The warrior's movements were a blur, his energy blade cutting through Zorathian soldiers as if they were mere insects. Xylara's breath caught in her throat. "No. It cannot be. He was destroyed. I saw it with my own eyes." The image zoomed in on the warrior's face, partially obscured by the helmet's visor. But the eyes, those piercing, defiant eyes, were unmistakable. They were the eyes of a man who had stared into the abyss and laughed. "Kael Arcturus," Xylara whispered, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and rage. "The legendary human warrior. He lives." The planet Zeta 9 was a barren wasteland, its surface scarred by centuries of war. The remnants of the Zorathian outposts smoldered in the distance, a testament to Kael's wrath. He stood atop a ridge, his armor systems humming softly as they recharged. The wind howled around him, carrying with it the stench of death and decay. Kael removed his helmet, revealing a face weathered by time and hardship. His hair was streaked with gray, but his eyes burned with the same intensity they had centuries ago. He gazed at the horizon where the twin suns were beginning to set, casting the landscape in hues of orange and red. "Kael," a voice crackled over his comms. It was Lyra, his AI companion, her tone laced with concern. "The Zorathians will not take this lightly. They will come for you." "Let them," Kael replied, his voice a low growl. "I've been waiting for this moment for a long time." Lyra's holographic form materialized beside him, a shimmering figure of light and data. "You can't take on the entire Zorathian Empire alone. Even you have your limits." Kael smirked. "I've survived this long, haven't I? Besides, I'm not alone. Not anymore." As if on cue, a group of figures emerged from the shadows, humans clad in makeshift armor and armed with scavenged weapons. They were the remnants of a once great civilization, survivors of the Zorathian genocide. Among them was a young woman named Xylara, her eyes filled with a mixture of awe and determination. "You're really him, aren't you?" Xylara asked, her voice trembling. "The legendary Kael Arcturus. The man who stood against the Zorathians when no one else could." Kael nodded. "I am." And if you're willing to fight, I could use your help. Xylara's eyes hardened. We've lost everything to the Zorathians. Our families, our homes. We have nothing left to lose. We'll fight with you. Kael placed a hand on her shoulder. Then let's show them what humanity is made of. The Zorathian fleet descended upon Zeta, 9 like a swarm of locusts, their ships blotting out the stars. Queen Xylara herself led the assault, her flagship, the Hive's Wrath, looming over the battlefield like a predator ready to strike. "Bring me Kael Arcturus," Xylara commanded, her voice echoing through the ship's corridors. "I want him alive. I want to see the light fade from his eyes as I crush the last hope of humanity." On the surface, Kael and his ragtag army prepared for the inevitable. They had fortified their position, using the ruins of the outpost to their advantage. Kael stood at the forefront, his energy blade humming with power. "This is it," Lyra said, her voice steady. "The moment of truth." Kael nodded. "Let's make it count." The battle was a maelstrom of chaos and destruction. The Zorathians unleashed their full might, their soldiers swarming the battlefield like a tidal wave. But Kael was a force of nature, his blade cutting through the enemy with precision and fury. The humans fought with a desperation born of centuries of oppression, their spirits unbroken. As the battle raged on, Kael fought his way to the heart of the Zorathian forces, where Queen Xylara awaited. The two warriors faced each other, the air crackling with tension. "Kael Arcturus," Xylara hissed, her claws flexing. "You should have stayed dead." Kael's eyes burned with defiance. "I made a promise a long time ago. A promise to protect humanity no matter the cost. And I intend to keep it." The clash between the two was titanic, a battle of skill and willpower. Xylara's claws clashed against Kael's blade, each strike sending shockwaves through the battlefield. But Kael's experience and determination gave him the edge. With a final powerful strike, he disarmed Xylara, his blade poised at her throat. "Do it," Xylara spat, her eyes filled with hatred. "End it." Kael hesitated, his gaze softening. "I'm not like you, Xylara. I won't kill in cold blood." Xylara's eyes widened in shock. You would spare me." Kael lowered his blade. "This war has taken enough lives. It's time to end the cycle of violence." Xylara's expression shifted, her hatred giving way to something else, respect. "You are truly a remarkable species," she said softly. Perhaps there is another way." In the aftermath of the battle, a fragile peace was brokered between the humans and the Zorathians. Queen Xylara, humbled by Kael's mercy, agreed to withdraw her forces from human-occupied space. The survivors of Zeta 9 began to rebuild, their spirits lifted by the hope of a brighter future. Kael stood atop the ridge once more, gazing at the horizon. Xylara approached, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she said, "for giving us a chance to start over." Kael smiled. "This is just the beginning. There's still a lot of work to be done." Lyra's holographic form appeared beside him. "You know, Kael, you could stay. Help them rebuild. You've earned a rest." Kael shook his head. "There are other worlds out there, other people who need help. My fight